North America, we are currently
fixing our mics.
Yeah.
That was my bad.
How dare you not be ready?
You know, I got excited.
You had one job.
We have like a 3-minute break, and I had to use the, you know, potty. I'm sorry.
The little Dreadnoughts room.
The little Dreadnoughts room.
Okay.
They never think about the
Acceptable.
logistics of the situation. What about eating food, existing beyond this camera, beyond this lifestyle?
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe you become a Freedom fan and root for them, and then
No,
maybe you'll be able to go. Except no, because you got to be unbiased. Game 3 is taking place on
Infernal Shrines. Team Freedom's going to be bringing us there. And by no means does this change the odds or the way the scale's heavier towards that of Superstars. It is still a big task to be able to take Team Freedom, and one that they need to overcome lag force again about the Crucible. This is what, oh man, Superstars, excuse me, is fighting for. Almost called them Space Station again. Can't have that going on.
Nope, that was only acceptable week 1.
No, now we're on week number 2. Like, let's grow up a little bit
yeah,
here.
It's 3.
Yeah, wow, double grow up. No, but seriously, it is still going to be a big task for Superstars.
Talked about Lunara priority between these two teams. We've seen a Lunara ban. We've seen Superstars pick her up. And this and Dragonshire are where we see both of these teams really like to play Lunara. So we'll see where she jumps in to the draft. Superstars banned Medivh last game. It was Towers of Doom. That's a good place for Medivh to thrive. They feel like they need to do it here versus Freedom.
If this is not a Tassadar ban, or if this is a Medivh, if they want the first pick Medivh, then I feel like this has to be a Tassadar ban. But otherwise, then you see Superstars ban the Medivh. There's no way, I don't think there's a way Superstars gets the Medivh at all. I feel like Team Freedom's just going to be like, not happening today. We're just going to ban it out. This hero is a little bit too scary, and Infernal Shrines is a map where he is pretty successful. The second map where he kind of made a showing after Battlefield of Eternity. There's the task ban. If Team Freedom I almost like the idea of like give up the Medivh, but don't ban the Abathur here. Okay, well then now see, I was like, then you just Abathur Genji and you just have fun with Abathur all day into the Medivh. If they end up going for the first pick. Now Superstars, pressure on their shoulders. They have to ask themselves, who is going to be our first pick? Didn't take them long to answer it.
First pick Medivh. It's the first time Superstars have first pick Medivh in all of Part 2. Oh, really? All of Phase 2. ETC Genji, Team Freedom will stick with a predictable but deadly duo.
Yeah, those two, they have a lot of synergy together. Mainly just anything that can set up kills is synergy with Genji. And then more importantly is the fact that the heroics, the counter initiations that ETC can provide, and along with the overall peel across the board, and the mobility that Genji has, it's very unlikely to get a kill on like the two together when they're duo threat up into the front line. And anytime you want Genji, you want more than one threat. It's kind of like ETC, at least for Team Freedom, seems to be like the, you know, Murd and Illidan double threat. Is like theirs is like, we like our Genji to be with an ETC. We feel like those two together on the front lines are the most effective, but at least Superstars will have the Medivh.
It seems like Freedom feels most comfortable when they're in the second pick position and they get a warrior in that rotation. Last part was Stitches. It was always Stitches Uther, Stitches something, Stitches Genji, and now they've just fully converted over to ETC.
How dare you suggest that a team might be better in the second pick slot than they are in the first pick slot? Because I don't know if you noticed, all of North America and most of the world actually feels like first pick's really busted. Are you trying to say that you might think that second pick has some positive advantages?
I wasn't, but now I feel like you were going. I was just saying that when they're in this pick rotation, they like to have ETC.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that this is not necessarily a bold, true statement, but we do hear a lot of, especially pros on Twitter, like there is a lot of talk on what first pick is, and I've also gone ahead and tweeted out, I'm like, you know, statistically, first pick actually has never been the better go-to. It almost never has been the winning slot. Second pick always does. And why? Why does second pick do it? Because you get to pick a map.
Yeah.
As long as you are not in a meta to where the first 3 picks are so heavily weighted and predictable onto your opponent's side to where you cannot overcome, like, win the game whatsoever, second pick makes the most amount of sense. You show the least amount, you have the most adjustment into the last pick, and you got to decide what the actual objective it was. It legitimately is actually advantageous as long as the meta accents it. Which
yeah, and we're getting to a point now where there are plenty of very strong, powerful picks so that you get 2 of them. You get pretty much a guaranteed synergy between the 2 of them, and you get to pick the battleground. But speaking of synergy, Malthael and Lucio, no Lucio to this time stop the Tormented Souls.
And the Medivh's taken too. Those are 2 counter-engage tools that the members of Team Freedom would like to have into the Malthael. There's only 1 left. But the question is he a big enough problem to where you have to even get the ban? It's not like Team Freedom has been over high on priority into the fall set. So, Superstars, is it worth it? Ooh, it's kind of a hard one here. I know what my version of this answer to this question is yes, it is worth it. You've committed to it. You need to make sure that you get the win condition through the elements you already have on your team. D.Va is going to be the ban for them. Very interesting to see the D.Va ban.
They've done that twice.
Yeah. I wanted to argue this is a, just because Team Freedom has flexed the D.Va so heavily in the past and they don't want to deal with it, but apparently they really are concerned with the shrine control around D.Va. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mecha Explosion, I mean, everybody knows the threat, right? I don't feel like this is too hard of like a wide D.Va on Infernal Shrines, but it does feel like most people are willing to say that isn't a big enough problem, we can't play around it. It's more just you should be able to play around it.
Yeah, they've kind of gotten to the point where nobody bans D.Va too much versus Team Freedom anymore. Greymane and Rhaegar are left open for Team Freedom, and they'll take it. Ancestral will have to be played around Touch of Death for Malthael, but Collusion is very confident on that Rhaegar. Final 2 picks for Superstars. And we're waiting on
something with shrine control and a warrior. Like, it's going to be Arthas what is my biggest thought here. Arthas, I'm missing something. I think I want, what is it? I wouldn't mind a Sylph, but I don't think that that is going to be a successful composition. It would be really high risk all around the shrines. And Team Freedom is a good enough team, so maybe don't all in on the Sylph wildness here, Superstars. But the biggest thing is getting somebody with shrine control. If this pick doesn't have shrine control, I just don't understand how Superstars wins the game because Malthael is going to be waiting for his heroic. Lucio is going to be waiting for his heroic. There's the Arthas. This last thing.
Valla.
Not enough for me.
I was thinking Lunara or Valla, but Lunara puts you in the weird spot of Lunara plus Malthael, the double poison. At the very least, you would have Medivh, so maybe you could still guarantee the kills by having a good portal. But I'm worried about that Valla against a Genji.
Tyrael is what I want from Team Freedom. I don't feel like the odds of them picking are very high, but if they do, this game is just going to be a slaughterhouse. One thing that if we do see more Lucio picked up, I want to see more Tyrael as a counter response. It is such a beautiful trade-off with the Lucio using his heroic. If he wants to truly fight through that amp damage, if he uses it responsively, you obviously can hold your sync, but if he uses it offensively, it just negates it, set it to even footing. If anything, it's actually, you still get the upper hand. Unlike Void, it's not a direct counter, it's a soft counter in favor of the Tyrael. But they go with the Falstad. No surprise, talked about the secondary ban phase, and D.Va over the Falstad, to Falstad, to not to Falstad. We've come to a conclusion.
So Falstad to try to reset fights, stop Malthael, stop Sound Barrier Malthael, Arthas there too, the flanks there, and then after that, ETC can re-engage once he's gotten a heal or 2 from Rhaegar. They'll have Genji behind that. We don't see a lot of Falstad from Team Freedom, but Team Freedom showing that they have the ability to make the necessary adaptations to pick up a hero like that.
Can you name a real-world example of a situation to where I have a goal and I have like a list of check marks and I'm willing to commit a reasonable amount of resources to make those be met, but everyone but the final one gets checked off? And then I lose it. Like, I'm willing to commit resources, but not enough to get my actual end goal. Just more like the Band-Aid rather than fixing the actual problem. because I feel like that's what we see Superstars endure.
Grocery shopping, but you forgot your credit card.
Okay, I don't get how this is going to be a thing, and I like the fact that you're willing to go that wild with me and come up with something. So we're going to say, yes, you are correct. But like on why I feel that way here with the members of Superstars, that specifically when the Malthael and looking at their secondary ban phase and look at all the bans that they had, the concentration of the disengage, they removed the Lucio, they have the Medivh onto their side, and then we're still not willing to rid of the final piece of the problem. And it just feels like they did everything, and like you said, you went, you got the shopping list, it's a mile long, you got everything picked out, you got the special, I don't know, rare brand that your grandma can only eat of raisins, everything's checked out for, except for, I don't know, the actual checkout and your credit card at home. That feels like what Superstar did with this draft phase. Thank you for that.
Hopefully, for Superstars, they can figure out the necessary adjustments to make sure and still win this game, because they do find themselves down at 2 games in this best of 5 to Team Freedom, and they need every game win they possibly can get. So let's get to it. Game 3 on Infernal Shrines for Freedom to close it out.
Flask build is the choice here for Team Freedom. The only map where this seems to be the staple is Infernal Shrines, because that shrine control, it is so very useful. Poke and such is so effective. When it comes to how these shrines have to play out, Superstars very much is a team that doesn't necessarily have the best shrine control, but they don't have no shrine control. Team Freedom has quite a bit on their own between the Genji, ETC, Rhaegar, and Greymane Falstad. Every one of them, except for the ETC, kind of has something going on. So it's up to Superstars to match them, which means Superstars has to be able to kill them. And that is where things, I think, will be a problem for Superstars.
Yeah, it makes more sense that they were willing to get Vala instead of Lunara, because they're trying to make sure that they get that real damage that can't necessarily be healed up. And once they get heroic abilities, they may be able to separate Team Freedom with the Leyline Seal, have Arthas there on top of people, and then that keeps people from being able to run away from Tormented Souls and then a strafe behind. But the killing of people will be the thing. There's so many supports from Team Freedom. There's Ancestral Healing, and then there's Gust. The big deal is the Gust.
The Gust. It has been a small adjustment, a small, kind of answer for Malthael, but it hasn't been a one-to-one. It wasn't the old, Korean and Chinese approach to Tyrael, just insta-Zeratul to be able to try and stop that. And it was like clockwork. You see it on one side, you see it on the other. The Falstad has been only the teams comfortable playing Falstad before, except for maybe Team Freedom. And it was only like in half the cases where it's left up here. So I'm going to be really interested to see what Team Freedom, because again, they're the ones who are willing to pick it more as a response than it is the comfortability of the hero. How good does it look? Does it look really as amazing as I assumed it to be? Because we have broken it down. And for me, it's just, in all cases, the Falstad wins.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to certain things like how Nasmus feels in that solo lane too.
Yeah.
That's generally been Kyr's role. And Kyr, in fact, is not playing Genji here as I thought he would. They're still keeping Dansky on Genji. He's playing Greymane, and Greymane traditionally has fallen to either Dansky or Nasmus. So there is some flexing happening here to allow this Falstad to be picked for Team Freedom. So how he does in the solo lane, how he does against the heavy engage of Superstars, that'll be the big question to how dominantly Team Freedom can succeed in this game.
Dansky once again on that Genji with the adjustments you were talking about with the rolls here. I mean, the guy is already still doing a lot of the small things. The biggest thing I want to highlight is his max range switch strikes, that he always does it at max range so he can body block with the secondary end, which is why he is effective beyond just dashing through. You see him constantly kind of getting a body block or at least threatening someone, and it makes it to where he gets a lot of hidden value because Superstars is suddenly second guessing and overly respecting the Genji. And so it's just, I feel like he, I like that they're willing to make those adjustments because his performance on that hero has been so outstanding.
Yeah, it's solid, consistent.
Yeah.
And he has that as early as level 4, so Strike at the Heart is always here.
Just watch the Swift Strike. Perfect max range every time. He'll wait for it again, and you can expect him the next time to Swift Strike through. He'll be right at the max range around chokes like that. This is where you can, he'll just get the body blocks and get the kills. It's impressive.
This shrine is crazy close, 35 to the 32 Skeletal Defenders, and Team Freedom is starting to back off under the pressure of Superstars. The Arcane Punisher has been achieved by Team Freedom, but they've lost ETC. They are going to maybe lose a lot more. They take out Cure. Finally, Team Freedom gets back with the 3 members who are left, but it's sort of a null trade, thanks to Superstars being able to get those couple of kills.
Yeah, those couple of kills will make it to where there is no siege capabilities for the members of Team Freedom. Falset flew towards mid, concentrating onto that side soak. ETC is going to come back now from the dead and make sure they get that. So, at best, that top gate, which is not something Team Freedom can be necessarily too proud of, but also I feel like that's got to be, you know, a bigger win for Superstars than that of Team Freedom. I talked about the threat of the composition that Team Freedom has. Any objective where they should have even a bigger advantage and they aren't getting more out of it than the members of Superstars, it's a huge breath of fresh air in this game, especially in the early stages where up until Medivh gets 7, like their composition doesn't have a goal to be aiming for.
Yeah, that's true. And they have been able to get that slightly ahead of Team Freedom. So now Posty can start working on those Master's Touch stacks. Do we see Touch of Death from Malthael? No. Wow. I think this is the second time we've seen a Malthael player have a really good reason to get Touch of Death. The other time was versus Dahaka and not take it. But here now, will not be able to limit the healing from Ancestral Healing. But it will allow him some more self-sustainability. He's got Cold Hand, and at level 7, this slows people down when you use Soul Rip on them, and that makes sure that people can't kite away from you as effectively.
To be honest, I actually thought this talent would see a lot more value on maps like Cursed Hollow for the kill potential through ganks. Dansky does have another member here to save him. Nasmus flying through, not able to land with that Q. And the slow is going to allow Urho to be able to escape. But I thought we would see it in more situational, again, on larger maps where you can expect, oh, if they go through the shrub, if I just catch them once, there's no escaping that. It's essentially you're an Arthas with a lot of damage, percentile damage, chasing people down. But this isn't Cursed Hollow. There are not very predictable rotations, and it's now going to be the value that it provides to a team fight specifically, which is only outside of the Tormented Souls and, again, the 1v1 matchups that he'll be facing into the fall set. So we'll see if it works out for Saray. That's really all we can ask here with that talent pickup. Solid argument for both sides, but the 10 skeletal defenders are the biggest thing to be looking at. Superstars claiming them for their own. That Shaman camp up on top.
So strike from Dansky. But Team Freedom are behind in this shrine, so they need to figure something out. They have pushed back Superstars long enough for them to try to start catching up, but once everyone taps, there's going to be a time for Superstars to get back into this fight before Team Freedom could have heroic abilities. And in fact, both the teams are very close in experience. Superstars steps forward, Zugrug under damage from Sray. He uses the Soul Rip, and thanks to Die Alone, has that extra damage.
Portal is going to be laid from Hosty. 2 more kills here. Now Superstars is actually leading in the race in experience here, thanks to the miscommunication by Team Freedom. They're 6 skeletal defenders away, and with Cure missing that last flask, they have finally solidified this Punisher. Superstars are fighting back, but there is a lot of pressure up on top. Somebody has got to be answering to the Falstad.
That'll be Malthael. Sray comes in. Nasmus plays it safe, still has the camp there helping him out, so he knows that he doesn't have to worry about that fort and can bring down the fort. In the bottom lane, Superstars are hoping to do the same. They've got all their heroic abilities ready. So does Team Freedom, who are just doing their best to take out the Punisher before the fort goes down completely, and then maybe try to aggressively get on some of the members of Superstars. And Superstars, seeing how fast the Immortal went down, or the Punisher went down, use the portal so that they can disengage.
So what do we see the members of Team Freedom do? Looks like Invade is going to be the focus. They start with Iacona. Iacona's a little bit unfair to be the target to focus on with that Swift Strike play of Dansky, just because that wall ride. But most people in that situation would just be body blocked to death. So the camp has been picked up for Team Freedom. Superstars still trying to figure out where is the moment that they come back to group, clump, and more importantly, take a fight.
Speaking of Iacona, what do you think of Boombox? This is Swoy level, Lucio.
You know, I'm not too big of a fan of Boombox. Outside of the vision that it provides as a talent, it just seems lackluster. Boombox was the first iteration of North American Lucio's. Almost every single one of them took it, and only North America was taking it. Now, most North American Lucios seem to have moved beyond the Boombox, except Iacona still busting it out here. Boombox at level 7, you can place a Boombox onto the ground, and it will play the opposite track in which you have active on Lucio for up to 30 seconds with the amp it up. So it's just, I don't know, man.
Yikes! There was that Swift Strike we talked about. Then the synergy between Genji and ETC, and a quick death from Malthael. Team Freedom are hoping to regain control over this game. Superstars have been able to get some good things going. They got the mercenary camp in the bottom. That keeps Falstad there. They can start trying to make the rotation up. But even with them having a lead in kills and being able to get some damage done to that bottom fort, because Team Freedom focused so heavily on having Falstad up in the top and they're able to get that fort, they're actually ahead at the level 13 mark. And that bodes really well for them to get on top of this first shrine and maybe start to get a Punisher.
Superstars, the fact that they're willing to play this out through mid while they have the Malthael split off is pretty risky. Dansky can do a pretty good job just defending this off on his own, and he's doing a mighty good job. Sray, the one-man camp, eventually will fall. Now Freedom knows where the rest of the members are. The Punisher is going to be picked up. 13 will be here. It's just whether or not it was worth, really, for Superstars. Nothing really gained. Shaman Camp will end up being lost, and I guess more just, you know, Penny, for your thoughts.
Well, Superstars are, again, keeping somebody in another lane so they can make sure to keep up with the soaking of the lanes. This time, though, at least they know the Punisher is going to be either mid or bot next time. As long as they can keep up with Team Freedom, then they've done a lot of damage to those forts already. They can try to take out a fort. Maybe even if they win the fight off of this, then they can take down the Punisher and aggress and take out those forts to get a big chunk of experience back. But it seems like it's sort of the same problem as before. Superstars keep up in the early game fairly well, but then in the mid game, whether it's out rotations, losing out on some kills, being willing to play the passive game, they start to fall behind of Team Freedom.
And when you do not have a global and your opponent does have a global, it only makes those decisions that much more topsy-turvy. If you fail at one of them, your disadvantage is only increased that much more. It's just the problem of competitive Heroes of the Storm, and one that Superstars is struggling to be able to identify a solution towards. I mean, don't get me wrong, all of us are. Invade attempt. Saray's a bit late to the party, not going to open up with a full initiation. Can I just say I am astounded at how often Malthaels can walk up mounted to groups of people. He is the only hero in the game that I see just being able to mount up and walk up to like actual groups of people without being dismounted. And that was one case of it, but I'm not kidding when I say it's about once every game, a Malthael game. He just nobody respects him because he doesn't have crowd control.
He's a ghost. He just pops up all of a sudden. You don't even realize it. Especially with On a Pale Horse, he rides in faster.
Well, he's about to ride the members of Team Freedom pretty quick here.
Sound Barrier, Ancestral. So we've got both of the support heroics. Dread, come on. You're the one who said it, you can't die. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. Honestly, it was one of those, as I said it, I realized I shouldn't be. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm crying a little bit. Team Freedom is going to have their 16 talent tiers before this next Immortal phase. Flight not going to conclude.
Hosty sees what's going on. There was the Master's Touch.
Is that really what that looks like?
Yeah.
I was just wondering why he gained Malthael's passive and they're on the same team. I've never seen that completed. Animation-wise, that's how bad I am at Medivh #1 and #2. That was pretty neat.
said and done. We're moving on. Superstars want to get in on this fight, but there's no 16.
Mosh pit's going to be used, interrupted there thanks to Iacona, but Urho is the focus. Knockback number 2. Mosh pit coming online in 5 seconds. Leyline has been thrown down, stalling out all 5. And 1 member dead for Superstars without the 16. It looks like it is enough to deter them off of this Punisher.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the difference between a level 16 Medivh and a not quite 16 Medivh. Force of Will doesn't give you the healing back of reabsorption. So even though Urho was in a position to try to slow down, lock down some of the members of Team Freedom, he just could not stay alive. Another thing that should come easier now that Superstars has 16, but at what cost? They lost some members, they're down a level, they're hoping to get in for the fight. As long as they can clear this out rather quickly, and with Dansky going in along with the Punisher, they might not get the opportunity.
Bait over the wall, instant initiation. Zugrug power slides on in. Nasmus barrel rolled over. He took out Yoda. Now Saray with the Tormented Souls making work happen. The Mosh Pit has frozen the members of Superstars. The Punisher coming in. He's the real MVP, soloing Medivh in the back line. And with the Gus, pushing Superstars back.
I swear Dansky could control that Punisher, sent it right on top of Medivh. He went in with the Swift Strike and took him down. The Mosh Pit keeping control of the rest of Superstars. Team Freedom bring down the keep, but that's not all they're hoping to achieve with the remainder of this Punisher.
They are not done. The shielding is gone from the core. The health is dropping, and Game 3 will go to Team Freedom, taking the series 3-0 over Superstars.
Team Freedom doing what we expected with a 3-0 win over Superstars. You gonna make it?
I don't know, man. I'm probably just crying left and right, dude. That was too good.
It was such a beautiful game from Freedom. I got a little misty-eyed myself.
Just Freedom. I mean, they really put on a clinic on how to play a map like Inferno Shrines. Brought tears to everyone's eyes. Everybody at home, everybody here.
Maybe even Superstars.
I mean, probably, to be honest, not really. Okay, probably not level of tears, but yeah, it's to the point where it does hurt. I mean, it gets to a point where it's kind of hard, you know, to kind of talk about it, because we are watching a team essentially with eternal struggles, trying to claw their way out. They're doing their best, and Team Freedom comes in and shows the level of dominance that they display. They do it in pretty, you know, predictable fashion. But that's the origin of the game. You know what I mean? It's one of those. I feel bad for Superstars, but I also am like, you picked a competitive game to go professional at. Like, this is what happens. There's always a winner, and there's always a loser. Sadly, Superstars is just too frequent on the second half of that.
And you know, Superstars now has played versus Team Freedom, and we felt like they did fairly well in the early game. But next up on Sunday, they will face Tempo Storm. And Tempo Storm had maybe the most dominant performance they have had yet versus Space Station last week. They're looking good, like they've been able to get that first kill or that first win to start making sure that they are just going to continue on cleanly through the rest of the standings. So I think Superstars will definitely be trying to take what they can and learn very quickly from this series before they run into Tempo Storm later on this weekend.
And you know, Team Freedom displayed quite a bit of dominance throughout this series. I feel like for all the upsets and for, you know, especially the series before this and what we ended up having and going down, I feel like every time a team who is projected to win comes out and looks dominant, I have nothing but nice things to say, you know, and I feel like Team Freedom was able to do that today. Not as maybe that much as Tempo Storm was able to do last week, but I mean, nobody I feel like has been able to do the dominance level that we saw displayed by them.
I think honestly the biggest question that we all have to be asking is, what does Gale Force look like versus Team Freedom on Sunday now? We came in and we were like, it's probably going to be very dominant Gale Force and very dominant Freedom. And only one of those things happened. And maybe, I don't know, it's hard to decide which one of those we were more sure about. But I don't know. Either way, I'm very excited for that series on Sunday. But I can guarantee that Gale Force will be watching this series, and they've got a lot to think about before Sunday. Let's check in with Nasmus now. Hey, Nasmus, congratulations. You guys defeated Superstars. Were you able to make sure and not reveal any strategies for Gale Force too?
Yeah, we just wanted to play a simple strat, like just killing people, nothing special. We didn't want to show anything to Gale Force, but we didn't want to hold up too much at the same time, so we just went with basics.
Yeah, what are you guys like talking about the loss that Gale Force had versus Space Station yet, or were you guys just mainly focused on this series and now you guys can start to pick apart what exactly happened to Gale Force?
Of course, we were focused on our series, but we were kind of surprised about how everything went down. We were SSG #1 fan during that thing. That was pretty nasty, especially that BOE game. That was a bloodbath everywhere.
Yeah, that was a really fun game to cast. Dread, do you have any questions for Nasmus?
I mean, well, then if you weren't that focused towards Gale Force Esports, now I'm going to ask, since we know that you're going to be going up against them on Sunday, how do you feel after what you just were able to perform against Superstars and after what we witnessed versus Gale Force and Space Station Gaming? What does Sunday look like for us?
I mean, we came in this weekend being pretty good-minded already, and then this plus what just happened in our games, this is just a bonus in a way. Like we're looking at this and we're feeling good about it for sure.
That's absolutely awesome.
Nasmus, any words for Gale Force?
The paint train's coming, man. Choo-choo.
Nice. All right, this is now your time for shoutouts if you've got them.
Oh yeah, big shout out to my teammates. We've been working hard as usual, and shout out to Team Freedom and all our fans. Twitch chat, you're always the best. And thanks for the bits. See you guys.
Bye, Nasmus. Congrats again.
Thanks.
2-3-0 wins in North American HGC today, but guaranteed not the 3-0s that we were expected at all. Space Station Gaming gets a gigantic victory over Gale Force Esports. Meanwhile, Team Freedom keeps chugging along, and they are headed straight for Gale Force Esports on Sunday.
And if any of you at home actually did predict the upset very first of the day, I would like to have a conversation with you because you, in fact, are the luckiest person, or you can see the future. One of the two are the case because, you know, you should be making money in other avenues than just betting on competitive Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, man. Gale Force Esports probably not too thrilled with today. They came in, we're not sure what happened strategy-wise at all with them, but Space Station at the same time came in. They had their different picks. They played Haymaker, they played some Alarak, and today it worked out for them. Today they can be very happy with their performance, as will Team Freedom. What do you think, though, moving forward now for the rest of this weekend? Do you see any big upsets coming in? Do you think that this means that Gale Force Esports might be more shaken versus Team Freedom, or is that more of a wake-up call about that series?
If I was to be completely honest, I don't think that the outcome of today affects the probability of the success rate of Gale Force against Friday, just because they are a group that is they're as a five-man roster, they're not necessarily known or comfortable with being at the top for as long as they are. I don't use the word comfortable, but they haven't gotten that kind of like, you know, we're just the best in NA and that's just kind of how it goes yet, right? They haven't earned that for remaining up there as long as they have. But the confidence level that many of them have displayed on other rosters has been there. Every single one of them at some point in time has been on the best team in North America, has been able to flaunt it, and has been okay with just kind of like your Wild Torontos and those other picks. They have played with their food in the past. Space Station Gaming, I'm going to claim, was with assumption food. Granted, it showed that they are very much not, or they're in fact the one that bites back, you know? And so it's just kind of, I feel like they didn't give them enough credit. They panicked too late. Game number 1 with the adjustments. Game number 2, it kind of got recovered. And finally, by 3, you could see a little bit more live Gale Force Esports, but Space Station's still the better team at the end of the day as we got that far in. So the win here for Freedom is not as good, you know, it isn't as good as it looks, I feel like, here. And the loss for Gale Force, and more importantly, wasn't as big of a loss as it looks.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe they weren't overconfident. Maybe Gale Force is struggling. And if they are, they're doing a good job of hiding it, because we did not see even, I have never seen even kind of a sign as to reasoning for them to be struggling recently.
Well, let's check in with the standings, because Gale Force now still tied with Roll 20, but Team Freedom on their way up to joining them. And Gale Force and Team Freedom had an easier first 2 weeks, and we have to keep that in mind as we continue to see their changes in standings with relation to Roll 20. Gale Force and Team Freedom only have played 2 series so far, and now today makes it their 3rd. They have 2 weeks in a row where they have 2 series that they have to play, and that has been an issue for Gale Force before, but I honestly didn't think it was going to be an issue for Gale Force anymore. Gale Force, I kept hearing, they're the new consistent team in North America. They're the team that's at the top. It's up to us to try to stop them. Losing to Space Station questions that.
We don't have a consistent team. But if nobody's consistent, everybody's consistent.
Hey.
Think about it. See? No, you are right. It is rather jarring, and it is a little scary, honestly, for the health of North America as a whole. Like, if you're an NA fan and you're thinking, at my HGC finals at BlizzCon, I really want North America to do well. Does Gale Force's loss bode you well as a North American fan? The answer is probably not. And most of the time you see these upsets, the answer is probably not. Stability is your first step to be able to grow, and then, you know, again, set the benchmark, climb on top of that. But we just don't even have a benchmark.
You know what the consistent we have? 12-0, maybe 15-0 this weekend for Roll20, and that's coming tomorrow. Let's check out the schedule in Europe. After HGC Korea, we're going to have Team Good Guys take on Fnatic. I do believe if Fnatic wins that series, they will qualify for the HGC Finals, joining not only Deadly Kittens from SEA, but Soul Torturers from Taiwan, or representing Taiwan. Then we're going to have Team Dignitas versus Zealots. I am looking forward to that series. As we move on, we've got Tempo Storm versus Lag Force, another really good hype series. And then finally, Roll20 Esports. We'll see if Even in Death can finally be the team to take a game off of Roll20.
Man, that is such a big struggle for Even in Death. If you're trying to be the team to finally break the win streak of Roll20, I mean, it's been primed. This is going to be the longest win streak we are maybe ever have in HGC for a long while, with the rate of Roll20 is going to be moving.
Justin promised not just 15-0, but 21-0 is now his goal. He just wants to be absolutely as consistent as they can and not drop a single game. And then, if they have to, they play through playoffs. Otherwise, hopefully they'll be set up in a position for either the first or second seed. And I think they were kind of resigned to maybe not being able to get the first seed. But now, after seeing Gale Force lose to Space Station, that might be changing.
Yeah, a lot of things may be changing in North America. And at this point, you know, I felt like we would be at the state where it's like we have come to a conclusion, or at least we are finding ourselves getting closer to identifying what the power levels of North America are. And honestly, other than I feel like we still know Gale Force Esports and Roll20 and Team Freedom. Maybe Team Freedom's even too far. I feel like Roll20 and Gale Force are the only two I can say I think are a part of your top three. But that is all I've got.
And Tempo looked really good versus Space Station last week. There's so many things to consider in our math equation. But you know what? Let's take a look at the top three cheered for teams in North America before we close out for tonight. HGC, Roll20 are still at the top, and it's been Roll20, Gale Force Esports, and Tempo Storm. But Roll20 is pretty solidly at the top. Gale Force is very close, and then Tempo Storm a little bit further behind.
Gale Force, I feel, you know, I mean, I don't keep track of the cheers as closely as maybe I should, but I feel like this has closed the gap into Roll20 quite
Gaining
a bit
ground.
there. Yeah, that 19 mil up into the 20, like they were doing pretty good. Their tempo kind of being left in the dust, but I mean, let's be real here. When you've got the ultimate backing that is Gladman, I'm sure that it will eventually find balance eventually.
Well, Tempo Storm plays tomorrow too, so
perfect opportunity.
We'll see what maybe Tempo Storm fans can do to close that gap. That is it for HGC here tonight. We'll see you tomorrow for more Heroes goodness. Good night.
The UED Expeditionary Force intended to put an end to the conflict in the Kaprulu sector and ensure Earth's survival. Unfortunately for Vice Admiral Alexei Stukov, things didn't go according to plan. After being betrayed and killed, his corpse was reanimated and infested, and he was imprisoned and experimented on by his assassin, Samir Duran. Only through a chance alliance with Kerrigan was Stukov able to escape and exact his revenge. Now, his infestation continues to spread into the Nexus. Stukov is a calculating solo support whose infestation abilities capitalize on the movements of his team and the position of his enemy. Stukov is a master at spreading and manipulating viruses created by his abilities. His first ability, Healing Pathogen, boosts his allies with a heal over time effect and spreads automatically to